the record button. There we go. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Today is Thursday, July 21, 2016, and my name is Erik Wolf, and I serve as the Executive Director of the World Food Travel Association based in Portland, Oregon, USA. And I am delighted to be joined today by two fantastic people. The first is Sanjeev Shenoy. He is one of our association's ambassadors in India. And then Aashi Vel, who runs a very interesting company called Traveling Spoon. And welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So first I'd like to start with you, Sanjeev. Can you tell us a little bit about how you came to the association, how you found us, and a little bit about your activities as an ambassador in India?
Sure. So I think all of us are aware that India has a huge population. We have about 1.2 billion people here, and the outbound market is growing at a very fast pace. It's second only to China. There's a lot of interest amongst Indians to travel abroad and explore the cuisine there. So that's when I came across the concept of food tourism, and then got to know about the WFTA and hence our association. Doing further research, I also understood that there are about 500,000 people coming into India every year, and they too would love to explore the Indian cuisine. Very little of the Indian cuisine is known to the world today. So I guess it's more to do with the chicken tikka masalas and the naan that is known, but that's probably not even a % of what India has to offer. So I've been trying to reach out to the tourism boards in India across different states, because all of us believe that India has so much to showcase in terms of cuisine. We would love to have people coming to India and exploring the food with us and understanding how we live. So it's been an exciting year or more with the WFTA, where we've had interactions with ambassadors globally to learn and understand more about food tourism and what we can do to promote food tourism in India. What has been encouraging is that the current government has opened up the e-visas. So about 150 countries, the people from over 150 countries can come in India with an e-visa. So it makes it very easy for them to travel. And even most of the tourism boards want to promote their cuisines. So an association with WFTA would be great, and I'm looking forward to working with some of the state boards soon.
Excellent. Now, I think that India is one of those places that a lot of people people find it mysterious. You know, we only know what we've seen on TV or read about, that kind of thing. I mean, I'm talking about Westerners, you know, specifically North America, perhaps Europeans. And it sounds fascinating, but I understand that there's really a wide variety of cuisines, and that the northern part of the country is very different from the southern part of India. Is that true?
Well, every state is different. So we have about 29 states in India, and each state has a different cuisine. So you travel about 100 miles and you get to eat a different cuisine. So that's how exciting the food is in India. And
now,
there's so much to explore.
When you say different cuisine, are you talking radically different, or are you talking slightly different between states?
Well, within states, it probably slightly different, but if you look at the north and the south, it's vastly different. So I'm sure there are a lot of Indians who haven't tasted the different cuisines themselves.
So what are some of the differences between the different states in the north and the south?
Well, the spices used are pretty different. Also, the grains that are used for different meals of the day. So we use wheat for lunch and dinner in the south of India, whereas in the north, wheat is used even for breakfast. So the food preparations vary, and the spices used vary. So the flavors are obviously different.
Okay. Now, I know in our 2016 Food Travel Monitor that just came out, we were doing psycho-culinary profiles, which is like travel behavior analysis, and India was one of the countries that we included. And it was very interesting for us to see that the largest percentage of vegetarian people who chose vegetarian as their first choice was from India, and I think it was something like 33% of respondents from India, which was the highest in the world. Can you talk a little bit about vegetarianism in India, and because I think that if some people travel to India, they might think, oh well, I'm only going to get vegetarian food, and obviously, you know, not every opportunity in India is vegetarian. But can you just comment on that for a minute?
Sure. So I think vegetarianism has got a lot to do with the religion. So majority of Indians are Hindus, and most of the Hindus do not consume meat. Hence their preference for vegetarian food even when they travel. Having said that, there is a huge population of Indians who now are open to exploring new cuisines and also meat because of the exposure they're getting through travel shows and food shows on television today.
Okay. So, are you receiving any of the Western food or travel shows, or does India produce its own food and travel shows?
All of them. We have Western shows, we have Indian shows, we have Indian chefs traveling globally, and also showcasing their Indianized version of dishes. So they have pizzas with some Indian spices, they have pastas with Indian spices. It's interesting stuff.
You know, speaking of pizzas with Indian spice, we made a dish here. It was a pizza with it had the curry powder on it. It had cauliflower and some other vegetables, some peas, and it was like a curry pizza. And you don't expect that, but it was really delicious. And why not? I mean, it's just bread with flavorings on top, right? So.
Sure. And it's also interesting to note that McDonald's does not serve beef or hamburgers in India. And they've developed a potato burger for the first time across the world in India for the Indian vegetarian audience.
Nice. Is it tasty?
Well, obviously not tasty as hamburger, but suits the Indian palate.
So are you a meat eater?
Of course.
So you said that the Hindus don't eat meat. What percent of India's 1.2 billion are Hindu?
About 80%.
80%.
Yes.
No, that's the overwhelming majority. Wow. Okay. Now, I think was it you or someone else that told me that the Indians tend to travel with their own chef?
Yes, I did mention that to you. So a lot of Indians are comfortable with their food, and more so vegetarian, because as we all know, when we travel globally, the option in vegetarian is very limited. So when they travel as a group, many a time they travel with a chef who can make what they get back home. So it works for them. They get to travel and look at new countries, and also be comfortable with their food.
Do you see that changing at all? Because I think in terms of food tourism, obviously it's about exploring the local food and drink culture. And if there's a group of people traveling with their own chef, then they may not have the opportunity to sample, crepes in France and, hot and sour soup in Hong Kong. So what do you think the prognosis is there?
It's definitely changing, though it's been a small percentage currently. The trend is growing, and the current Indian traveler wants to explore different cuisines. We see that also through a lot of international cuisine restaurants being set up in India, and like I said, the food shows and the food contests that happen in India. So definitely a lot of interest in international cuisine, and travelers today are willing to explore local food and wine.
So maybe the message here then would be for different destinations around the world, or different tour operators in other countries that want to receive Indian visitors. Maybe if they worked to educate the restaurants and say, look, we need an all-vegetarian menu. So in France, that might be a vegetable consommé or something that is still a vegetarian meal, but with the local flavors.
Yes, I think that would be great because I guess many of the Indians are apprehensive about what they're going to get when they're not familiar with the cuisine.
Mm,
But if they are assured that it's going to be vegetarian and all the ingredients used are going to be vegetarian, I'm sure they'll be open to trying it.
nice. Now, when we say vegetarian, do we mean vegetarian or do we mean vegan?
Vegetarian.
Okay, so they might use butter or cheese. Okay. Okay, so that's important to know, I think. Well, I for one, I'm excited to go to India one day. Indian, people always say, "What are my favorite foods?" And Indian is in the top 4 of my cuisine. So Italian, Indian, Thai, and Mexican are my favorites. And there's nothing better than really good Indian food. And I've not had truly authentic Indian food in India. When I lived in New York. We used to go to the Lower East Side, and apparently my friends said that was Bangladeshi. That wasn't real Indian food. Okay, fine. And then I traveled to London, and I'd eat at restaurants like Khan's, which I would love. But again, people say, oh, that's British Indian food. That's not the same. So if I came to India and you took me out to dinner on the first night, what kind of food would we be eating?
We'll be having kebabs, which is meat cooked in an earthen pot. We would have naan and rotis, which is bread, with curries, which would vary across meats, and also some vegetarian curries and lentil.
Dal.
We also tend to eat some rice, which is had along with the curries, and end our meal with an Indian dessert.
So what would be the dessert?
Well, there are probably over 1,000 Indian sweets. So we would probably get you to sample a platter.
What's that? Oh, a platter?
It would have, a platter of sweets. Yeah, so it would have fruits. It would have sweets made out of dry fruits, some with milk and condensed milk and stuff like that.
Interesting. That sounds really nice. Are you familiar at all? I mean, can you talk a little bit about Ayurvedic and what that means, or is that something you're not familiar with so much?
Sorry, I didn't get that, Erik.
Ayurvedic.
Ayurvedic, yes. So, well, Ayurveda is very popular in most parts of India. They follow a sattvic diet, which means it does not even include anything that grows below the ground. So onions, garlic, ginger are stuff that they do not eat. Yes. So they believe that these vegetables add anger and change your mindset. So they avoid these vegetables and they have a different cuisine. So they eat vegetables that are grown above ground level. Hence, their options are limited, and obviously, there's no meat.
Interesting. Now, Ayurvedic is also an approach to healthcare as well, with herbs and stuff. Do you know anything about that?
Yes. So Ayurveda is basically a form of wellness. So there are oils which are used for massages and treatment and wellness. Also, the herbs which are used as medicinal and which are used in the food. So there are very few people who are who have a complete Ayurvedic diet. Some of them use it for like a detox, more for a detox or a wellness program.
Yeah. Now that's really interesting. We tend to take a lot of supplements here in the house, and I was given a sample of Ayurvedic something for digestion, and it really seemed to have a very a balancing effect, a regulating effect on my system. And I think it had some turmeric in it and a couple other things that I wasn't familiar with. But it's a very old medicine. It's thousands of years old, isn't it?
Yes, it's over it's thousands of years old. And like I mentioned, if we follow the Ayurvedic diet, then we don't really need these kind of supplements. So nice. They have a very strict, stringent rules that need to be followed, and it's very effective.
It's interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
A lot of medical tourism into India is because of Ayurveda.
Nice. You probably have quite a few spas or wellness resorts then, is that true?
Yes, many.
Excellent. Okay. We have a partnership with an organization called Wellness Tourism Worldwide. They're based in Los Angeles, and they do a lot of fantastic training and education in the wellness space. And they were one of the first organizations to really do this. And the woman who runs it, Camille Hoheb, she was on Food Travel Talk TV, I guess back in May or so. And it's fascinating, you know, this whole approach, because the spa and wellness, that can the cuisine ties into that, obviously, whether it's cleansing or a spiritual approach or whatever it is, it can clearly tie into it. And I think quite a few cultures around the world do partake in cleansing diets, and I think that that's something that well, at least from what I've read, it's something that's really good for your system to flush things out, to maybe go on a fast for a few days. I don't know. I don't know if I could do a fast for a few days.
Well, as part of the Hindu culture, there are certain days of the year where we fast. When we say we do not eat anything until sunset,
Mm-hmm.
and then consume only fruits. It's basically a way of cleansing the body, and the dates are selected based on the planetary positions.
Hmm.
So these dates vary each year, but the occasion remains the same. So Hindus in most parts of the country follow the fast on that day until sunset, and then eat only fruits. So scientifically, I believe it's got to do with cleansing the body. That's what we need every couple of months. So it works really well across the country because it's connected with religion.
Interesting. Is there any, I mean, this is fascinating. Is there any kind of scientific evidence that documents the effects that this has on the body?
Well, there is a lot of data that suggests that fasting definitely helps detox and cleanse the body. Having said that, I guess the diet for the rest of the year also has to be in tune with the Ayurveda and stuff for us to have a good well-being.
Okay. Well, now if I followed an Ayurvedic diet, that means I could not eat onions or garlic, right? Because those are under the ground?
Yes.
Okay. So, but are those used in your food?
In the regular vegetarian food, it is used, but not in an Ayurvedic meal.
Okay. Now, are there specific Ayurvedic restaurants then in India?
There are a few. It's more like a specialty restaurant, because if you would want to experiment with something like Ayurvedic food, that's when you would visit. Else, for people who are following the Ayurvedic way of life, they cook at home.
Okay. Wow, that's interesting. I would like to try it and just see how it differs. You know, taste a curry made with onions and garlic and taste one that's not, and see how they. Can you taste the difference?
Of course. So yeah. You want to know what your first meal in India would be. So now it's going to be an Ayurvedic meal and none of the kebabs and meat.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. Well, let's move over to Aashi for a minute. You know, you're talking about my first meal in India. Well, that's Aashi's whole business, is to connect people coming inbound to different countries and connect them with the locals and bring a local meal together, right? Aashi, tell us a little bit about Traveling Spoon and what you do. And I'm just going to pull your website up now as you're talking so people can see.
Sure, sounds good. Thanks, Erik. So Traveling Spoon is an online marketplace connecting travelers with authentic and private food experiences and people's homes around the world. So anything from a cooking class or a homemade meal, or sometimes even a market tour with a local host, to have this really immersive cultural experience. Our goal really is to make travel meaningful and to give people a chance to understand the local culture through its food. So the website that you see that Erik has pulled up is our site, where you can go and tell us, where you're traveling to, pick a city, and decide from a variety of hosts with whom you'd like to have a meal or a cooking class. It's an exciting way to really understand the culture of a place. We found that so often travelers go to a city and sure they see all the landmarks, but they really struggle to find authentic food. And the reason why we started was because my co-founder Steph and I really shared a passion for food and travel, but mostly because we wanted to give people a chance to have truly authentic food. One of the genesis of Traveling Spoon was right before business school. I was in Mexico, and I was walking through the streets of Playa del Carmen. And typically whenever I go to a new region, I try to explore the culinary scene and ask friends or go to review websites to find restaurants that are really authentic. And the recommendations that I received were, touristy and overcrowded, and I had a hard time really finding authentic Mexican food, and quickly realized that it was difficult because, when people travel and they look for a restaurant, everyone's looking for the same thing, so you see a lot of tourists around. And one day on my way to yet another restaurant, I was passing by this woman's home, and I looked through the window and I saw her cooking. And I had this moment where I was just like, oh, I wish I could eat with her, and hear her stories and really share an authentic Mexican meal with her. So that's sort of where the idea started. And I met Steph at business school, and she had a similar experience when she was living in China. She really wanted to learn how to make dumplings from a Chinese grandmother when she was there and had a hard time finding it. So I was like, wow, you want to learn how to cook from a local, and I want to have a meal with them. So let's work together and see where this can go. And we're really excited. We're now in 18 countries around the world, predominantly focused on Asia, and are in about 40 cities right now.
Nice. I'm going through the different options, and I want to make sure that people understand that you're not just in India. I mean, you're obviously very strong in India, but I was just pulling up Mexico, I was pulling up Greece. Let's see. Sanjeev, this is your town, right?
Yes.
All right, let's see where we could go in Bangalore. Authentic South Indian meal. Oh, Gouda. What's Gouda cuisine?
Gouda is the local cuisine.
Okay. So here
Gouda is the local community here.
Okay, and is this the food that would be served by Archana?
Yes, that's right. So Archana is our host from the Gouda community in Bangalore, which is in the state of Karnataka. As Sanjeev alluded to earlier, there's so many different communities within the state, within one state, and they all have a very distinct type of cuisine. And our goal is really to feature those unique regional cuisines that you typically wouldn't find elsewhere, that you wouldn't find in a restaurant. Archana is really passionate about serving food that she grew up eating, that her parents would cook for her. And all of the photos on our website are original photos of the food and cuisine that you will eat in that host home.
It looks delicious. What are these two things right here?
So the one in the middle looks like a raita. Raita is a mixture of yogurt and vegetables. In different parts of India, people make it differently. Sometimes in the north, they fry what's called bundi raita, where you fry chickpea batter and little. In fact, it looks similar to the one in the middle, but then you add it to the yogurt. And in this one, it looks like she's got curry leaves, some tomatoes and onions and cilantro. It's sort of like a relish that you eat to cool your system. Yogurt is considered a cooling dish, and because Indian food tends to be spicy, it's good to have that balance of things that give you heat and things that cool you down as well.
Nice. This is, and there she is right there. This is fascinating because really, I'm looking at this as an alternative to a restaurant, really. And, when I travel, it's always about finding the right restaurant. And I think that travelers have a lot of fear and apprehension about, especially foodies, about choosing the wrong restaurant and not knowing if it's going to be a good experience. And really, when you're looking at the prices being charged, I mean, this is just right in line with restaurants. And I guess the other thing about restaurants is that you're paying tax and you're paying a gratuity. Are tax and gratuity part of this price equation?
Yes, everything is included in the price that you see.
Okay.
The reason there's a range is because it depends on how many people there are and what you'd like to choose. So, we offer meals from anywhere from about $12 per person all the way to, a meal with a member of the royal family in Jaipur, which could cost up to $100 per person, all the way to a market tour where the host will, take you to a local market so you can explore the region's produce, fruits and vegetables, things that you may not have seen before. And it's really exciting to discover new vegetables and fruits in the market. And so you may even pick up a few ingredients for your meal. You come back to your host's kitchen and learn how to cook a meal that's been of a recipe that's been passed down through generations in her family. And together you share that meal you helped prepare at the dining table with either Archana or her husband when he's available.
Nice. I think the market visit is really, it adds a dimension, because it's one thing to go into someone's home and learn how to cook or to have a lovely meal. But, in places I've been, like I'm just thinking about Korea and going to the markets in the streets there, you see all kinds of different vegetables and meats and also prepared foods you've never seen before in your life. And then, the interesting thing is, well, your host is going to be purchasing some of those and things that you would normally never cook with, never even see in a grocery store, say in our countries. And here we go, and bringing that, weaving it into a meal. And I have to say your website is extremely easy to use. It's very well laid out. It's very attractive. It's very clear. Where am I going next? I want to see if you have any places I'm going next. Okay. It might be in Athens at the end of November. I'm not sure.
We just launched in Greece this week.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, we're really excited. There's just an incredible culinary heritage that we have, and we're so excited to share that with the world. So if you were to go to Athens, you'd find a couple of hosts there. One of them, Angelina, who makes this really yummy dish called revitada that is not typically found in restaurants. It's a chickpea dish, and it's made, takes a whole day to make that dish, and you make it in a pot from this town called Sifnos in Greece. And so she's really excited to share some of that cuisine with travelers. And she's, Erik, if I can invite you to click in the middle of the gallery, it'll open up the photos full frame.
Oh, okay. Wow, that looks very nice.
So, here she's got dolma and tara masalata, which is a dish made from cod and the roe of cod and the roe of fish into sort of a puree with yogurt. It's really quite delicious. That's the view from her balcony. That's her picking lemons from her garden. It's her and her husband. We try to show you photographs so you know the place that you're going to, the food that you might eat. What we found to be really exciting is travelers don't, they say, serve me whatever you would like to serve me your favorite dishes. And it gives them a chance to really explore, the culture and the cuisine of a region. Because typically when you go to a restaurant and you look at a menu, you tend to pick things that you're more familiar with. But this way you get the host to sort of tell you, listen, this is, what I feel excited about cooking today, what's in season, what I've learned from my parents or my grandmother. And I'd love to show you that. And so it's been exciting. The other thing that's been great is that travelers who have allergies, for instance, find it really comfortable to have a meal and a cooking class with our host, because you see exactly what's going inside the food that you're eating. So it gives them a sense of comfort and feeling that they can eat this without any issues.
Yeah.
All of our hosts will accommodate your allergies, and also most of our hosts offer vegetarian options if that's what you want.
Nice. Tell me, how do you find and how do you vet your hosts? Because obviously, people think, oh my gosh, I'm going to go into someone's house. That some people might welcome that, other people might think that's a little odd. So how do you find people, and how do you make sure that they're a good fit for what you're offering?
Absolutely. So all of our hosts have been personally vetted. We want to make sure we offer high quality experiences. This is, after all, a food experience and a human experience. So we take a lot of pain to make sure that we bring on high quality hosts. And in India, for instance, we make sure that our hosts not only serve you bottled water, but open the bottles in front of their guests so that they feel comfortable drinking that. How we find our hosts, we have a link on our website which says become a host. So we have a ton of hosts now who apply online to become a host. They fill out a form. We then have a video screening call where we speak with the host to make sure they're really passionate about the food. We particularly look for people who are cultural envoys of their region, who want to show off the best foods and culinary heritage of the place that they come from. And after they pass that sort of video screening, we have a member of our team, or what we call an ambassador, who goes into their homes, checks out the food, tastes the food, takes photographs, writes a review, makes sure the pantry is clean, makes sure the kitchen is clean. And only if they pass a very stringent vetting process do we bring hosts into our community. So we like to say we find some of the best home cooks around the world and love to have them as members of our community. 50% of our hosts come through host referrals. Our hosts enjoy the process so much and enjoy, sharing their homes and food with people so much that they tell their friends, and then their friends apply to become hosts on our platform.
Nice. How many hosts do you have worldwide right now?
We have over 200 hosts now across 40 different cities.
Wow, that's fantastic. Now, how long have you been doing this?
We've been doing this for about 3 years now. When Steph and I started, we bootstrapped the company and went around ourselves looking, went into people's homes to taste the food and meet them. It was a wonderful part of my job. Of course, now we have other team members who do that. We also have what we call ambassadors. These are people who, like us, enjoy food and travel. And we had a ton of people reach out to us to say, we love what you're doing. We also agree that the best way to understand local culture is by meeting with locals, and what better way than over a meal to really understand the culture of a region. And these ambassadors tend to be photographers or bloggers, people really passionate about food and travel. And so we train them when they go to a city to ask the right questions. We have a form that they have to fill out. And so they vet our hosts on our behalf, and we are able to bring on these hosts onto our platform through this ambassador program. So if any of you are looking for a free meal and a chance to meet a new host and vet a new host for us, please let us know. You can become an ambassador by filling out an application on the website.
Nice. Who does your PR? You've got some tremendous press coverage.
We've been fortunate. We've had, it's been mostly organic, Erik. We've had, everything from Forbes and Travel and Leisure to CNN write about us, and most of it's been organic. We're a young startup, and so we haven't spent too much on PR yet.
And this is the biggest publisher in Indonesia, which also has a fascinating culinary culture.
Yeah, so Femina, I think you meant to say India, is a very popular magazine that does a lot about lifestyle and food in India.
Okay.
Yeah, so this was actually the very first article that was the very first piece of PR that we got. It was through one of our hosts who really loved what she was doing for us and said, oh, you have to meet so-and-so who, works at Femina and would love to write a story about it. So
this is a magazine in India?
Mm-hmm. Femina
Okay.
Yeah.
There's also a publishing group in Indonesia called the Femina Group, and they have, they're the largest publisher in Indonesia. They've got probably 15 different magazines, including Men's Health and a lot of women's magazines, and that's why I thought it was Indonesian, because it's the same name.
Well, I'm definitely check them out and see if they might be interested.
Yeah, I can connect you. We have an ambassador in Jakarta, and she's fantastic, and she took me that when I was there, we met in their offices, and they have a test kitchen, and I still remember this one dish they made. They were, they had the photography going on. It was kind of like New York comes to Jakarta. It was very exciting. And they had this little dish that, and they made these, they were almost like, what's the Indian bread that's crispy?
Papad?
Yeah, it was almost like that, but it had peanuts and, what was the green? It was a tasty green something on top as well, but it was baked in, and I couldn't stop eating them. They were so tasty.
No. when you speak of Indonesia, it reminded me of one of our hosts that maybe I can have you navigate to. So if you click on Indonesia and Bali, you say, where are you traveling? That we have a host named Dewa in Ubud, in the north of Ubud in Bali. And he is this wonderful person who I can guarantee you will become a wise man in 10 to 20 years, one of those wise medicinal Balinese people. And he offers this wonderful experience. He lives in a family compound where about 100 members of his family live within a walled courtyard, and they each have their individual homes, and it overlooks, the shrine and the vegetation. And so he takes you to this garden, this beautiful tropical garden that he's been tending to for a while, and shows you how to, grow pineapples, how to pick passion fruit, how to, really, there's a ton of vegetables, cinnamon, vanilla, all of these beautiful herbs and spices that he grows in the garden. I remember this one day when he was walking me through the garden, I saw this bright orange papaya hanging on the tree, and I was like, Deva, what is that still doing on the tree? Why aren't we eating it? And he said, very sort of somberly, he said, in Aashi and Bali, we believe that you only take what you need for the day. We had 2 papayas this morning, so we took one and we left the second one. So for the monkeys, if they want to eat it, or if they want, to spread the seed. And I was like, wow, do you actually live like this? That's incredible. And so he walks you through the garden, and you get to discover things like wild ginger, turmeric, and galangal. He brings you back to his kitchen where you meet his wife and extended family, and you cook on this open wood fire dishes such as brigadel, which is corn fritters that were influenced by the Dutch when they were in Indonesia. But of course, it's got the Balinese, flavors where they have like chilies and shallots and ginger sort of minced in and mixed into the corn and then fried. It was a delicious dish and really the best meal I had in Bali. And it's just the warmth of the family and the hospitality, which was incredible. They're such wonderful people. And it's such a great way to really understand the culture. I felt, wow, I had a 3-hour cooking class with him, and I learned about the world and thought about it in a very different way than I would have otherwise.
Well, when I was in Bali, I went to Ubud as well, and I remember that the food was excellent. I did not do a home cooking class, but the food was spectacular. And they had their own version of a curry that was kind of bright red. Did you have that while you were there?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Bumbu kuning, which is another curry, which is bright yellow, is another one of my favorites there. What I found was interesting, comparing Indian and Balinese cuisine, because a large majority of Balinese are Hindus, is they tend to use fresh herbs and spices. And in India, we tend to use dry herbs and dry spices for the most part. So we'll use turmeric or dried chili powder, ground coriander, dried cumin seeds. And in Bali, everything is fresh. So if you look at the little paste mixture to the left of the corn in that mortar pestle, they use this version of their mortar pestle stone, and the ginger is fresh, the turmeric's fresh, the chilies are fresh, everything is fresh, and it gives it a very different and still complex flavor.
Nice. So Sanjeev, are you one of the hosts?
Well, not yet. But Aashi, I should tell you, I had a great experience in Sri Lanka. So when I was in Colombo last month, I had a meal at one of your hosts, and I just loved the seafood. Though I expected the Indian food, the spices used and the flavors to be similar to that of India, Sri Lankan cuisine is very, the spices used are probably similar, but the seafood was awesome.
It's unbelievable. I think you're with our host Geeta in Colombo.
That's right.
I had this crab dish with her, a coconut crab. Oh, blew my mind. It was so delicious.
Is that it right there?
That's it.
That's it, yeah.
Wow, that does look tasty.
It was delicious. She even makes a dish from jackfruit seeds. Did you have that, Sanjeev? It's, we use the jackfruit in many ways in India. And in Sri Lanka in particular, they use the seeds. So there it is, under that bright red chili are jackfruit seeds that are, spiced and stir fried in a spice mixture that was actually really delicious and something I'd never had before.
It's probably seasonal, so it wasn't on the menu the day I was at her place. Yes.
That's the other thing that's really unique. It depends, each time you have an experience with one of our hosts, it's really special. It's not only private, but it's also unique depending on that season and what they cook for you that day, and which, if they have members of their family who happen to be visiting or there during that time. So every experience is unique in its own way.
This is amazing. So Aashi, when are you going to expand to the rest of the world? Because I'm going to Canada, I'm going to the UK, and you're not there yet. So I need hosts in those places.
Our goal is certainly to be a global company. Our mission is to become the destination for authentic food. Whenever people think of authentic food, we want them to think of Traveling Spoon. Currently, we are focused in Asia and certainly are expanding to Mexico and South America and Greece, as you saw. We're looking for regions that have a really deep culinary heritage, and we want to show that off. And yes, we will certainly be all over the world, Erik. We're not there yet, but that is the plan.
Okay. If someone can become a host, there's a link on your website. What if people want to learn more? I mean, I'm just get in touch on your website.
Yes, please get in touch with us. Either send us an email at hello@travelingspoon.com. If you'd like to be a host, you can click on the host button. If you'd like to become an ambassador, there's an ambassador button. I will say that that's been the thing that makes me happiest about building the company, is just hearing from our hosts how much they enjoy being a part of the community. Certainly it gives them an opportunity to make money doing what they love. But we have hosts who host for a variety of reasons, which is always refreshing to hear. So we have hosts in Vietnam who tell me that most of the times they host because they want to practice their English speaking skills. So this is a great way to meet people from around the world and practice speaking English. Our hosts in India tend to be women in their 60s and 70s who have cooked for their families their entire lives for decades and are excellent home cooks. And this is an opportunity for them to really shine and show off their skills. We have hosts in Japan. And one of our hosts, Keiko, tells me, she's like, Aashi, we always ask our hosts why they want to be hosts. And so she told me that when she grew up in Tokyo with her two siblings, they never met a single foreigner growing up. And now she hosts with her two kids, and this gives her a chance to really expose the children to people from around the world. And she wants her kids to meet kids from around the world. And so it's been really wonderful to hear the different reasons why people want to be hosts in our community.
Nice. And I'm glad you brought up language, because that is probably something on people's minds, especially if they're not native English speakers, and they're also a second, in English it would be a second or third language for them. And then for some of these people also, your host, it's going to be not their native language. So is English always the language of instruction or hosting?
Yes. So right now, all of our hosts speak English, with the exception of maybe one or two hosts in Japan who speak it but are not super confident about it. So they host with their daughters or a friend of the family's who acts as a translator for them. But 98% of our hosts speak English.
Okay. Okay. And what a wide variety. I mean, we've just taken a tour of, 6 or 7 vastly different cuisines on your website. It's amazing.
It's incredible. I've tasted so many different types of food and have been exposed to so many different vegetables and fruits from around the world. It's been an incredible experience.
Yeah.
And our travelers say the same. It's one of the things we're proudest of is our traveler testimonials who say they traveled through Southeast Asia for 3 weeks and this was the best meal they had, or the highlight of their experience, or, they made a friend in Seoul. We had a solo traveler going to Seoul in Korea, and she met with one of our hosts in Seoul, Jessie, and she wrote this really heartwarming review saying the food was wonderful, but really I made a friend in Seoul. And so often people, when they travel solo, have a hard time eating in restaurants because it's just them. It's hard to get a reservation. And this gives them a chance to not feel alone when they're traveling.
Yeah. Is there a minimum? So can a single traveler book a meal, or do there need to be at least 2 people?
On average, we have a minimum of 2 people, but certainly there are hosts who welcome solo travelers as well.
Okay. Now, there's other companies in the world, obviously, that do something similar and have similar website. Were you the first, or or are you just the strongest in Asia? What are your strengths over the other companies out there?
Absolutely. So, we've certainly seen the home dining and home sharing space change quite a bit in the last few years. And we see a couple of spreads in this space. One, on one spread, the spectrum is between companies that offer social dining to locals and those that are purely focused on travel. Some of the companies you may have heard of, Eat With and Feastly, they are based in San Francisco and offer group meals to a local San Francisco audience. We see the value and the opportunity really in travel and offering private and cultural experiences to travelers, and are predominantly focused and started off in Asia. On the other spread, we see a difference between companies that offer a purely open marketplace and then companies that are a highly curated marketplace. And we are, as far as I know, the only people who offer a high quality curated marketplace offering meals, cooking classes, and market tours to travelers in Asia.
Nice. I'm just clicking on the map here. How do I get the map to expand?
So for reasons of privacy, we don't have the map expand all the way in here. So we show you the neighborhood. But if as soon as you make a reservation, the way it works is you ask a host if they're free on a certain date. And if they are free, they respond, and then you confirm and you're sent all of the details, a contact email, a link to their home, and their address.
Okay. The only reason I'm asking about Singapore is because I used to live in Singapore, and I'm just trying to get a sense of where she is in relation to, say, Orchard Road or some of the places. There's Bukit Timah Road. Okay, I'm with you now.
Yeah, it sounds like she's close to the country club there. So
yeah, she is. Yeah. The boy she looks fun. Next time I go, I want to dine with her.
Rosalind's a really fun host. She used to be a former investment banker and then retired and decided food was her passion. And she's even written a cookbook that I think the Prime Minister handed out at one of his conferences. She's
Really?
a wonderful person, full of life, cooks really delicious Peranakan food, and is a real treat.
Nice. That's fantastic. Gosh, I'm hungry. I'm excited. I have the travel bug again. I can't wait to go on one of these trips. Definitely, if I'm in Athens at the end of November, I'm going to do one of your tours there. And I'm also going to sign up for your newsletter. I'm excited to see where else you expand to. Istanbul, I've always wanted to go. I've heard the food scene is amazing there. Oh,
it's incredible, Erik. Everywhere you go, the city itself is so wonderful because it's this juxtaposition of old and new, old mosques and temples and churches with like contemporary skyscrapers. The food, this is one of our hosts, Nurai. Yeah, you picked Nurai. She makes the best baklava. Every traveler who's been to her returns and says the baklava was heavenly. Like
that's art. Look at that.
She and her daughter are a mother-daughter duo who cook together and offer a really wonderful experience. So please let us know whenever you're traveling next. We'd love to set you up with one of our hosts so you can have a really authentic homemade meal and get a feel for the local culture.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm excited. Hey, this is fantastic. You're a fascinating person. You've got an amazing business model. I can see why Sanjeev thought we should definitely speak. And Sanjeev, I'm just so excited that you're there carrying the torch for us in India, because I think India is probably one of those next undiscovered food destinations. When people have done France and Italy and Spain and now Thailand, and people are always looking for new and different. Food travelers, we're explorers. And I think that India specifically has a lot to offer. So this has been a really cool show.
Thank you, Erik. It's been really fun. Thank you, Sanjeev, for introducing us. It's been a pleasure being on it. And Erik, I just wanted to mention, if you're in Chennai in India, we have a host who does purely Ayurvedic food. It's a very, very balanced meal. So that may be a chance for you to try it out.
In Shenoy, huh?
Mm-hmm. Which is where I'm from, yes.
And where is Shenoy?
Chennai is on the southeast coast of India.
Okay,
It will be vegetarian.
Oh, well, I want to meet her dog. Which is the Ayurvedic one?
Gosh, there you go. A beautifully balanced Ayurvedic meal. I think you just below.
There it is.
Yeah, it's with Pratibha.
Okay, that looks tasty.
Yeah, that's her home, and that is her. That was a raw mango drink that she made for me. It was delicious.
Wow. Is raw food an important part of Ayurvedic?
I don't know, Sanjeev. Do you know if raw food in particular is a big part of Ayurveda?
It is.
A lot
It
of,
is.
She had a bunch of salads and also cooked foods, and of course we make sure that the salads are prepared using purified water and bottled water as well.
Yeah, and here she is. She's a co-author of 2 award-winning cookbooks. Fantastic. Wow.
Yeah, wonderful host.
Look at that. That's beautiful. Well, gosh, you guys, thank you so much. I think I'm about ready to book my trip to India for sure, and I probably need to stay a few months to take in the whole country. It's so big.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Erik.
And we'll be in touch soon.
Sounds
Sure.
great. Thank you, Erik.
Bye-bye.
Happy travels.